Let's get to Canberra now. Andrew Clennell, our political editor, is standing by for us. Andrew, good to see you. What's happening there this week?
Well, so much, whether it's Barnaby falling in the gutter or the right to disconnect or more chat about tax cuts and negative gearing. Let's start with Sunday Agenda yesterday, Laura, and Peter Dutton confirming to me that should they win office, they will campaign against and overturn this right to disconnect legislation for employees. This right to disconnect legislation, is that something you'll go to the election promising to overturn?
Yes, we will.
Do you intend to go to the election with an IR policy reversing many of these Labor changes? I'm talking about the policy around casuals, around multi-employer bargaining, etc.
If you think it's okay to outsource your industrial relations or your economic policy to the Greens, which is what the Prime Minister's doing, then we are going to see a continuation of the productivity problem in our country.
Now, there's no doubt right to disconnect will be very popular, Laura. I mean, there are more workers than bosses in this country. But I'll tell you what, making every Friday a public holiday would be popular as well. It all comes down to productivity and whether or not this thing is practical. And I can't see how it can practically work. It sounds like it will clog up the Fair Work Commission. And if it doesn't, it will mean businesses are more reticent about contacting their employees, which will hurt productivity and hurt the economy. Let's see, though. The unions, they pretty much have a wish list of this government so far. And again, most of those measures are popular. But where does that leave us economically as a country at a time the Treasurer is calling for more productivity? Well, the other big talking point yesterday on the show was negative gearing. And the Treasurer Jim Chalmers, I had to ask him about it because his Treasury head had told a parliamentary committee on Friday that he and Jim Chalmers had discussed changes to negative gearing. Jim Chalmers is saying in relation to this, well, I talk about everything with him. I mean, all Treasurers do. I don't think anyone doubts that Jim Chalmers wants to change this. I do think the easiest change, if you're going to do this, is just to say you can only negatively gear 1 or 2 properties per person. Why are people allowed to claim a deduction on 20 or 30 after all? But any other changes, well, they're just going to be too unpopular. That's why they don't want to touch it. Jim Chalmers is always looking for extra revenue, but he seemed to really kick this one into touch yesterday. Would you like to make changes to negative gearing?
No, that's not something that we're proposing, not something that we are considering, not something that we are working up. We've got, I think, a very broad and very ambitious housing agenda, and we've got a pretty full book when it comes to tax reform, and our focus is on legislating that.
What about trust? Are you going to look at trust?
No, that's, again, fits into the same category as the others, Andrew. That's not something we've been working up or considering. Our focus has been on these cost of living tax cuts for Middle Australia.